All right, so you're sitting up straight and tall, and in a way, when you're centering and you go into the less tangible part of your experience. Remember a few weeks ago, I was talking about how, because Anger had that line I heard about trying to measure the immeasurable within, or measure the immeasurable infinity within, right? So that was a class a few weeks ago. And the idea of centering is that you're opening up your floodgate. So your mind, as you don't fully realize, is like a barrier or a gate to aspects of your experience that it deems not necessary for your survival. But the fact is, it's got access to way more. And part of what you're doing as a yogi is you're trying to, especially in the centering, you're trying to calm your mind down enough so you can open up to more of the intangible aspects of your experience. Because maybe, and I put this in air quotes, maybe that's where the infinity is. Right? So, and whether that, for you, your belief system might have divine implications for you, I don't know. I want to stay neutral on that, but it's in the intangible part of your experience that probably unity, in my opinion, is. So this centering, think of this as not just narrowing down your focus, but getting your focus quiet enough so the floodgates can open without your mind having to judge it. So sit up straight and tall. That's why I say things like, allow your presence. It's not something that you assert with your mind. It's something that's already happening, right? So as you sit and allow, then I'll say things like, locate yourself in the room. In other words, use the part of your nervous system that doesn't just feel where you are in space, but part of your nervous system that locates you in space. And again, that's why I also say open up to what you can't see, like especially to what's behind you. And opening up to the part that's a metaphor and literal. You're opening up to the parts of your experience that you don't get to grab. And that part has to come through your poses in asana. The part that you don't get to grab, but you kind of get to direct, because the body's amazing. Let's just sit here for a second. So when I do it, I like to especially be a little bit more aware of my exhalation. And then I do things before I start asana where I try to notice where I feel the air on my skin. For me, because I'm spinal cord injured and I can't feel my feet the way most of you do, I locate my feet, feel where my sitting bones are. I have scoliosis, so I'm always turned, so I try to equal out a little bit. Just take a few breaths before you start to assert. As you know, for the last few weeks, I'm very interested from the sensation of allowing to the sensation of action. So I'm really interested in my practice in how do I start my actions without violence. By violence, that means something really subtle. To me, if I'm not congruent with all that I am, I still have work to do. So you just sit and allow the sensations. And then start to be more aware of your feet when the foot pedals are on the floor. Feel where your sitting bones are. And start the emerging that's possible in any moment. Right? So you get down and lift up the front of your chest. Broaden across the shoulders, across the collarbones, and then make sure you open across the back ribs. Right? So you're going this way and this way. And you're trying to be as balanced as you can be on your sitting bones. Notice the breath. Close your eyes. We talked about if you're comfortable. Notice the breath into each nostril, into each lung. Keep your consciousness in each sitting bone and each foot. You are congruent with something. You are part of something. You are never fully alone. Soften around the temples, the jaw, the inside of your mouth. Feel the quiet. Keep alert. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to do yoga. Good, and then release and take your sternum more up towards your chin and your chin down and over your sternum. But don't, if you have to choose one more than the other, the lift in the chest more than the drop of the chin. But do both. And this should even add a little bit more focus to how your inhalation affects your rib cage. And as you notice, as you do the inhalation, be more aware of the sitting bones and the expansion of the rib cage. There's an ebb and flow here. There always was. There always will be, actually. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. All right, so one of the things that I feel like I'm more demanding in my adaptive classes than I am when I teach traditional students, whatever that means. And that's because I think because of many people on the screen have some limited mobility and balance and different things are going on, right? That means I think that as an adaptive student, you have to learn how the poses work at a deeper level than a traditional student. Because your learning won't be able to occur, or I would say your realization won't be able to occur from as wide or as big a domain of poses. And I think that's an advantage. I think the traditional students often think that success is whether they can get their hand down to the floor in Trikonasana. They think that that's progress, and it absolutely isn't. So absolutely, I don't know, but it isn't, okay? Right? I've been teaching for a long time. And so part of it is like getting and being able to recognize the importance of littler movements, what I like to say, movements closer to the hub of the wheel. Like if you take a wheel, right, and near the hub, a little movement near the hub of the wheel translates into a big movement at the outer rim. So I want you to always stay patient with my classes as I teach you little things, because they're not little things. They're big things. I really think that matters. So on these next few breaths, I want to re-emphasize. And by the way, there's only a few. Oh, that damn light. Oh, it's supposed to. So there's only a few core principles in asana. So don't get bored with them. This is where your mind has to become more supple. Just because you think you know them, don't forget there's an infinity within, right? There's immeasurable within. So your repetition is your only way to deepen what's happening, okay? And so don't get bored like, hey, I know this, or this isn't active enough. But just on these next few inhalations, there's so many yogis that I watch, traditional yogis, that don't get the relationship in how it moves energy through your body between the inhale and the exhale, right? And last week I was talking about the pauses too. I'm not going to focus on that as much. So I want you to notice the inhalation is clearly an expansion. So just take a couple of breaths, and it's mirrored by your rib cage. But remember, like I was teaching the rib cage and even the hands in prayer as a microcosm of a macrocosm, right? So on this next couple of inhalations, just notice how your rib cage expands. Try to start your next inhalation with a slight anchoring in the lower abdomen, right? So there's an anchoring of the inhalation as the chest inflates and the rib cage expands. So there's already an extension happening in your spine when you inhale, even though your experience is in all directions. Just notice that. And don't worry about the exhalation yet. Anchor the bottom of the inhalation. Let it expand. And this is just me going over a theme I've done many times since I've been teaching this class. And then on your exhalation, elongate your spine. So the ways I've said that to you before is exhale as if I'm pushing on the inner edge of each shoulder blade. But so there's an expansion, which part of the expansion like this is also a down and an up. So feel that. And then accentuate from the back ribs forward to create more length. This is why almost always on inhalation, you go up through gravity. And on exhalation, you reach down through gravity, right? Like there's a fundamental relationship here, right? And just for your next couple of breaths, feel the expansion and then the elongation. Now, one of the ways that I actually, in this class, I want you to know from this, I teach you my core secrets in this class. I don't do it in a lot of different classes, okay? So this, because I think that you all have to learn yoga even deeper, right? Than people that are, quote, have more ability. So on the inhalation, right, it expands. On the exhalation, it elongates. I remember hearing or reading in an ancient text, a yogic text, that, and this has got me thinking about the difference between the two, right? It's just a story, and it kind of puts it in terms of the divine, and that depends on your belief system. But so the way that I read it in a text was the inhalation, you take in the divine. On the pause, the slight pause, you appreciate. And on the exhalation, because one of the yamas is non-stealing, you return it to the world. So you're only ever borrowing here, right? So on this next few inhalations, feel the expansion. That's taking in, be grateful. Get it, take time to appreciate it, and then return it in action, in your reach when you're doing asana. So you're taking it in, you're expanding, You're appreciating what's happening because breath is miraculous, but it's more than just breath, because your breath is moving your awareness to your body too. And then you let it go back into service, right? Service to others, service to your own body, right? Whatever. So this idea, this core principle of expansion and elongating is in every single pose as you're getting the poses more and more difficult. And it's a fundamental that as poses increase in complexity, students aren't able to stay with, including myself, when they get really complex. So just a few more breaths. Now notice, is your jaw soft? Is the inside of your mouth soft? Are you being aware of the very base of your spine? Are you being aware where your feet are, where your sitting bones are? All of these things are in play. And you're using your body presence to measure it, to draw the world towards you, appreciate it, and return it in service. That's what your life should, That's why there's something called karma yoga. Your life should go in service, so should your exhale. Okay, so as you start to coordinate these actions, right, here comes the asana. So now I want you to hit down more through your sitting bones, lift up to the center of your chest, and stretch your arms down. So now we're starting to introduce opposite actions and movements into the breath. So you're hitting your sits bones down. And as I lean back against my chair, I'm a little bit tipped, so it's not as good for me, right? Right. So, but my arms are at my sides here. I'm lifting up through the core. I'm stretching my arms down. Into this structure, feel your breath. Feel the expansion of the inhalation, the elongation possible in the exhalation. But now the elongation includes your arms, right? The way you bring the muscle to the bone. So broaden across the collarbones, stretch the arms down, move the muscle towards the bone of the upper arm, but don't lose where your sitting bones are. Don't lose your base. And let your inhalation fill the structure and your exhalation bring you further and farther into asana. Into the service. Inhale, take your arms up. Arms stay wide. Broaden across here. Hit your sitting bones down. Extend from your inner groin to the inner knee. Feel the soles of your feet. Take a couple of breaths. Nothing's changed. Everything's changed. Just by moving your body. And then come on back to center. Be in the center and come forward. So so I'm leaning on a table here. I've got a chair. I can go back here. Remember, I'm hoping you're starting to think about having things to accentuate your balance, right? Because another basic principle of yoga is that if you're off balance, you're not doing yoga very well. Which means for someone that's got a couple of you got pretty CP, let's say, balance is a funny sensation. You have to learn deeper than everyone else. So I'm just sitting here, my back slightly elongated. I'm feeling my sitting bones. I'm broadening across my sacrum, my very low back. And then as I do that, I want you to extend from the inner groin to the inner knee and down to the inner heel. Right? So and your chest is lifted, of course. So now you're breathing, but now you're breathing into different sensations. You're expanding them through your body. And you're exhaling as you lengthen your spine. So now what we've done is introduce different directions of movement. So you're extending your arms, you're pressing down through your inner heel, from the inner groin to the inner heel. And the chest is lifting. And now you're also then layering in your breath. This is very complicated stuff to do it in a way that your brain can be aware of. Good, and then release. Back to just Savasana. So again, hitting down and rising up and pressing down through your inner heel, right? So I want this whole corridor to be active as your arms stretch down. The core rises into Tadasana, the base grounds. You go across this way with your chest, and you mark it with inhalation and exhalation. Remember, I want you to get the feeling of yoga, so it doesn't depend on the poses I teach you. It was never about the poses. The poses are a pathway. They're not the destination. Good, and then release. Inhale, take your left arm up. Extend the side body. You got to wake up those side ribs. Remember last week I was having you extend up your left arm, but press down to your right sitting bone and right heel. Keep your arm up. Dennis, straighten your arm more. Looking at you, right at you. There you go. So you're hitting both sides, right? And then down. So all we're doing here, and then up with the other arm. Remember now the right arm's up, but you're extending down through the right sitting bone and the right foot. Because I want you to get different sides of your body. Good, and then take your arm down. Take your first arm up again. Now be careful here. Like go over and get that side stretch, right? So you're not like extending your spine straight. You're almost rounding it some. We're just trying to get the intercostal muscles here to open up some. Why? Because it's going to make your breath more supple. Now make sure you're still in this one as you're going over to the right. Press down through your right inner heel. Keep awareness in the left hip. Good, and then come on this way. And just see if you can notice a difference on your rib cage. The more you can get your body to receive the energy of your breath, the more effective your breath's going to be. And I want to say it again, the more you get your body receptive to the breath, right, the more yoga you're going to do. So go the other way. So I'm really trying to get my ribs to receive, to open. So I'm leaning over to the left. I'm staying aware of my left hip and left foot. I'm being in the right hip. And I'm opening my sides right here. Good, and then come on up. Ask yourself the question only you can answer. Which side did you stretch better? Right? Because you did. They weren't the same. I guarantee it. Right? And then come forward again. So I'm just leaning on my my forearms on my legs. Right? So we're elongating our spine again. Right? It's elongating. And I'm breathing again, but now I want you to keep almost like with your peripheral vision. That's more of a metaphor. Keep aware of both sitting bones and both feet, the soles of both feet, where each forearm is hitting your legs. So don't stare right at those places, right? Let them be like in the peripheral vision, or like when you look at a beautiful art painting, where you just take things in, where you perceive beauty. Like we know how to perceive beauty. We don't stare at it and make it mechanical. We do something else when we perceive beauty. It's a brilliant realization that human beings have made. We can actually see beauty. See it in your yoga pose. Good, and then come on back up. So again, think about balance as being one of the big keys of poses. And so I want to redefine balance though. And we've been going through some exercises or some postures here that I think you'll understand what I mean. Think about balance as an equal distribution of presence within your body. Okay, so there's that balance. So that's why I keep cueing you in different places where your mind wouldn't naturally stay present, right? So I want you to be in your feet, your sitting bones, your chest, the tips of each shoulders, and the tops of your head. That would be me trying to cue you into a more equal distribution of presence, right? By having your whole body that way. But then there's the next balance. So there's the balance on it's for the world called interoception, loosely, right? But then there's also a balance between you and what's outside of you. So feel whole and full from inside to out, but then balance it with the whole room. Graceful yoga poses by advanced practitioners are doing this all the time. But they didn't have to learn it directly. They just did it through practice, through the acquisition of a skill of movement. But this is one of the consequences, to be able to maintain full body presence inwardly while staying connected outwardly. Mm-hmm. All right. And then come forward again. I realized that I'm asking you to go really pretty far inward in poses, right? That's okay. You'll survive. Mm-hmm. Take some breaths when your spine is extended. My hands are down on a mat, but so I'm making sure my palms are open if that's accessible to you. And I'm breathing. Because remember, you're taking in the world on inhalation. You're appreciating it, and you're extending on exhalation farther into the pose. This will get more so when the poses get more complicated. Good, and then back up. So for those of you that can't lift your foot up, again, what I want to go through is, so I've got my chair here. Let me fix my screen just a little bit. I'm going to put one leg up on the chair, right? There's my chair seat right there, right? But for those of you that are just going to put one foot a little farther forward, right, that can only do that, just change the sensation in your feet, right? So if one foot goes forward, great. If one, the other one goes back, right? But I want you to change your base, right? So my legs are pretty spastic this morning. It's a good thing I'm practicing yoga, right? So I want you to change the feeling of your base, right? So even if that's just, because remember, I want you to learn the sensation of when something becomes yoga. So let's say I'm like this and I'm just watching a movie. That's probably not yoga, right? Hanging out, watching something with one leg up, one leg down. So what is it that makes the sensation of yoga? That's part of what I want you to get really good at, right? So part of it, and I've already hinted, is making sure, even though one foot's up, one foot's down, that I stay aware of where my body is in space. So where the heel is and the down foot and how that affects each sitting bone. And then lift your chest. I know this seems simple, but this is the building blocks of asana, right? Is to be able to change your mind's experience through moving the body, but keeping yourself full and whole. So I'm feeling my down foot, my up foot, both sitting bones, and lifting my chest. And I'm taking a couple of breaths. So I'm wanting my spine and my lungs to extend out through my limbs, or fill the vessel, expand out through my limbs, pardon me, on inhalation. So right now I have my left foot up, right? And then I'm going to inhale and exhale and make sure I'm feeling my whole body, the down foot, the up foot, the lifted chest. I'm just going to take my arm wide. So I'm in kind of a funny position where my hand is. I also have a down foot and an up foot. I've got my sitting bones, and I'm breathing. And on the inhalation, the expansion is filling the vessel. And on the exhalation, I'm extending from the back ribs, returning what I took in from the world and putting it back through the world by using my body. Good, and then release. So even if your one foot's forward just on the pedal and one foot's back, that's good enough. Because what we're trying to introduce is a variation in your experience, right? And so now I want you to inhale again. Take the arm up over, out to the side, then up over your head. Now make this more yogic. Hit down through your sitting bones, down through the down foot or the back leg foot back. Extend to the other foot and breathe. Now drop your chest a little bit and see how you broke the pose. Lift your chest and feel the pose. Good, and then release. And the reason I want you to get aware of what it is when something starts to feel more like yoga. So you're going to, same side, you're going to take the right arm up and then exhale it on the outside of the leg. Now, again, if it's just your feet are barely different, that's fine. But be on the outside of the leg that's forward, or the foot that's forward. Right? And so now, even in this position, I want you to not lose the equal distribution of presence through your whole body. I want you to get that, right? Because that's the most important thing as you introduce change, right? So now inhale, lift up, and exhale, revolve a little bit. But now I've got one foot down, one foot up. I'm stretching, I'm twisting towards the foot that's slightly forward or the leg that's up. I'm lifting my chest and I'm breathing. But as I breathe, I let my inhalation touch where my whole body is. And my exhalation extend my work. Good, and then come on back to center and be in the center. And then take the foot down and change legs. So the other foot comes forward or up on a chair or whatever it's going to do. So because my legs are so spastic today, I have to sit and let it do what it needs to do. One of the reasons why I'm narrating my experience and how my body is different every day is so you start to recognize yours, right? You start to realize that all this, so as I sit here, if I'm practicing at home and I'm not on Zoom right now, I'd be sitting here longer trying to get my body used to this position, right? And that's just part of being a yogi. All right, so now I want you to hit down to the down foot, extend to the up leg, lift the chest or the forward leg, and then inhale and take your left arm from the arm that's not the same as the side of the leg and stretch out, straight out to the side. Arms over here, right? And now I'm doing the same thing. I'm making sure that I'm staying in the whole vessel. I'm making sure my shoulder blade on the arm off to the side is going towards my sternum. As I stretch beyond my fingertips, as I press down to the down leg foot and extend out to the up leg. Good, and then bring it back to center, back to on the exhalation. And then inhale and take it up. So now I've got my left arm up, my right arm leg out straight, my left arm, the left foot on the pedal. I'm taking a breath. I'm feeling the openness on the side ribs. And I'm extending my presence. So I inhale and I take everything in. I pause slightly with the appreciation. And then I exhale and I extend out through my whole pose. Good. And then release. Take the arm down. And now inhale, take it straight up in the air. Keep awareness in the whole vessel. And then exhale and bring your arm on the outside of the leg. And again, I don't care if both feet are on the pedal. I'm being smart, and I'm going to grab somewhere smart on my chair because I know that if I go off balance and don't feel safe, I can't actually do yoga because it's the sensation that is the yoga. a holistic sensation in action. That's yoga, not how far you get. So as I'm off to the side here, I'm making time to make sure I stay in my whole body, in my sitting bones, down to the down leg heel, extend out to the up leg or the forward foot, lift my chest, and then inhale, lift up, and exhale, revolve. So now I'm adding a twisting action, but even though I'm twisting this way, my focus still also has to be on the down foot and on the energy extending out to the leg, right? So I'm just doing all of this, keeping my mind quiet enough so I can still feel my whole body. Inhale, not a huge breath, but let it go through your whole body, down through your legs. And then exhale, lengthen your spine and revolve a little bit. Good, and then come on back to center. Be in the center. Take your feet equal again. Or if you have your leg up, your leg down. And sit and appreciate symmetry again. Everything comes off the sensation of symmetry, right? Of balance. So even if I'm got scoliosis like that, is my body following my scoliosis, right? Even if I'm over this way, I can still make sure that my presence is going throughout my whole body. Yes, it's a little easier if I sit up straight, but that's not always accessible. So here, even here, I'm a little bit turned, but I'm making sure my awareness is spreading out through my whole body, because that's what's important. And taking a couple of breaths. Now, the one thing I would say as you're being this inward, like Gay, keep your eyes open, because you want to keep the yoga in the world, right? Otherwise, you're not being of service, right? So don't just take yourself out of the world with your meditation. Also enter the world, right? So keep breathing. A couple more breaths. Mm-hmm. And then again, elongate your back, right? Because the more space you can make in your spine, and I'm sure there's physiological reasons for this, but when you can keep your spine have more space in it, the nervous system flows better. So we're just elongating our spine after that twist. Right? That's all we're doing here. And feeling the breath, keeping your mind, your consciousness anchored in your sitting bones, spreading across the sacrum, extending from the inner groin to the inner knee and down through the feet, and letting the rib cage expand on inhalation. And then on exhalation, lift my chest more and broaden across my collarbones. So you're going back and forth. You are an ebb and flow of changing while things are unchanging. Good, and then come on back up. So this feeling of wholeness is what I want to keep going. So go over to your right. Make sure, because of course, as soon as and then come back for a second, just notice what happens. Although you feel more weight when you go over to your right, in your right hip, a lot of times your mind follows what's dramatic. So your consciousness has to be what stays in the whole vessel. So I'm coming this way. I can feel more weight here, but I got to make sure more awareness stays in the back leg. In fact, I'm going to take my left arm and push on my femur bone and lengthen my spine right here. Right? So I get it lengthened and lift my chest. So, but my emphasis here, keep an equal distribution between the soles of your feet as you elongate your spine. Broaden across the collarbones. Stretch out to the top of your head. Good, and then come on back. And what you'll find is that when you take the time to be more aware of the whole vessel, and we're going to go on the other side in a second, right? When you go over like that, all those instructions I gave, right, actually spread more awareness through your limbs, right? And there are instructions that are through the midline. Remember, it's your
Excuse my interruption, Matthew, you've frozen.
in an opposition.
There you are. You froze there for a minute. Yep.
Damn it. Well, so I don't know how long I was gone. So now I'm leaning over to the right, to the left, right? I'm elongating my spine, but I'm pushing back down on my left hip, on my right hip, pardon me, and opening my chest and extending out to the top of my head. So I'm really getting, right? So then don't push down your leg and let your spine drop, and see how that's not yoga, right? Elongate, press, keep the base, lengthen through this corridor, right? Good, and then come on up, be in the center. Good time for some breathing. But on each breath, I'm not taking huge inhalations, but I'm feeling the hum throughout my whole body that's been created by the practice so far. And I'm trying to make sure my breath touches all of the hum. Because you're always trying to balance, not just feeling whole within your body, but connected to everything around you. Good. And then I want you to get in a position where you can go up and over the back of your chair. Now, as soon as my awareness worries about back bending, I naturally don't stay as connected to my feet. And if you're honest, I'm pretty sure the same thing's happening to you. So how am I gonna make from this as being, I'm just stretching my back? Remember, there's a difference between bad stretching, good stretching in yoga. So if I just stretch, I'm just stretching, I'm not taking the time as a yogi to be in my whole body, right? So I want you to, again, keep studying the wholeness that happens in particular movements. So I'm gonna make sure I'm grounded here, start to go back up and over, but keeping my consciousness in my feet and sitting bones. I don't care how far back I go, I care how whole I stay, right? So although I'm lifting my chest and spreading the hood of my chest, I'm feeling my sitting bones down to my feet and then broadening across the collarbones, lengthening from the sternum to the chin. But as I do that, I want to feel my whole body, not just where my mind's doing stuff. Good, and then release, come forward. So that's a really important distinction, is when you're hearing instructions from me, you can't help it, but your mind is going to do the instructions, but another part of you has to be feeling your whole body, right? And so you have to literally be aware simultaneously of different layers. Because Iyengar calls this different sheaths in the pose. So you've got the sheath where there's overt action. You've got the sheath of how your body's staying, your presence is staying whole in your body. You have the sheath that's being aware of the inhalation. You have the sheath that's being aware of the exhalation. You've got like at least 6 or 7 sheaths happening in every pose, right? And you're training your mind to be simultaneously aware. Your brain's already receiving all that information. Your mind doesn't know how to be aware of it all, right? So again, now feel your feet, your sitting bones, start to come back up and over the chair, right? Broadening the hood of the chest, but making sure, and look on the collarbones, you're staying in your sitting bones and feet. And taking a couple of shallower breaths. And then come on a bit. So I'm going to try to, this next time, I'm going to do the same thing again. But I want you to I'm going to hopefully make my instructions a little bit better, right? About keeping the simultaneous layers. See, I think that a lot of times students don't realize the different dimensions or layers of their awareness. So instead of thinking about a single, like when I give too many instructions at once, you might say, that's just too many, my cup filleth over, right? Instead of thinking about like you only have one cup filling with water, you have multiple cups filling with water. So you can be aware of the multiple cups, not just how much is coming into one, right? So sit up and ground on your sitting bones in your feet. Let that cup become more aware. Lift your chest a little bit. Lean back against your chair. Notice the change. Stay connected to your feet and your sitting bones, even though gravity's changed. Start to draw up from the feet as you press slightly into the floor. Press down into the sitting bones. Start to lift the chest up and go up and over the chair. Staying connected to this other layer. Broadening across the hood of the chest. Starting to lengthen from the sternum to the chin. All the while staying in all the other spots. And then start to notice your breath. Not big breaths. One that takes in, and then one that exerts. Good, and then uncoil. Come forward. Now let's add some movement, right? So I want you to come forward. Lift up. Move back. Hit the chair. Back of the chair. Stay grounded. Up and over the chair. Stay in the whole body. Open the hood of the chest. Inhale. Exhale, pull yourself forward. So notice my hands are on my knees now. Inhale, and I'm going to push on my inhalation and start the process back. Now, as I fall back behind the balance board, I got to work to stay in my sitting bones and my feet. Then hit the back of the chair and go up and over. Keeping awareness going here through the core, down to the feet. Awareness moving here. My sternum lifting towards the ceiling. Length from my sternum to my chin. But it's keeping the whole vessel. On an inhalation, take a slight inhalation in, and then exhale, pull yourself forward. Come forward onto whatever you're going to come forward to. So now we're going to make this even, so now you're forward. But now we're going to make it an even littler action. So you're forward on your sitting bones. My forearms are on my knees. Right? I'm going to make sure I'm going to take some time here to feel where my feet are, where my sitting bones are. Now I'm going to inhale and lift my chest. And then elongate my spine on exhalation. So I know you're probably not seeing the top of my head, maybe you are, right? But it's more about your spine right now. Another inhalation. Broaden across the collarbones. As you do, feel more in your legs. And then slowly unback bend. Like come back to more neutral. And then making sure you stay in your feet, your sitting bones, where your forearms are on your legs. Inhale and rise your chest. Broaden across the collarbones, across the sacrum. Keep the connection from the inner groin to the inner knees, down to the heels. And then exhale and let it come out of that position. Now, those of you that can, come a little bit farther forward, right? So you're more in a forward bend. Uttanasana, Paschimottanasana, if you know that, right? But I want you to have you keep your head down, right? So you're looking down more, whether it's for me, it's right now to the floor. I have my hands on something. If I didn't, I'd have to be really careful here, right? But I want you to be more taking in less of the room with your eyes, closing your eyes, being more forward, being more aware of your sitting bones, where the backs of your thighs are, where your knees are. Now, the expansion of your breath when you're more in a, quote, forward bend. Feel the spreading across the back ribs and across the sacrum on the inhalation. Fill the back of your thighs. And then exhale and very gently, gradually elongate your spine on exhale. Fill the vessel again on inhalation. And on exhalation, but now your eyes are closed and you're more inward. But you're trying to feel your breath even more. And when you're ready, push yourself back up. Mm-hmm. And then I want a gentle twist now. So take your left arm outside your right leg and the other hand behind you. So this is a gentle twist, more consistent with the forward bend you're just doing. Right? Inhale and expand through the whole vessel. And exhale and revolve. There's a balance between inside and out. It's not just within your body. Good, and then come on back to center. Again, I hope that was a gentle twist. Come forward again. Start the forward bend energy again so you're down a little bit farther. Equalize. So like I've got one side of my rib cage on my back that doesn't receive the air, the expansion as well. So I'm just taking note of that. Breathing into the that I don't have as much sensation in, but staying inward. Staying aware of my sitting bones and as my rib cage fills with air, backs of my thighs. Receive two. And then on inhalation, come on back up. And then inhale. And on exhalation, take the right hand outside the left leg. Grab the chair where you need to. Again, we're gentle twisting now. More inward than outward. Inhale, lift up, exhale. Don't try to crank too far. For some of you, this is like to do poses that aren't as far into the pose is really hard. Like for Bo and for certain students. Good, and then come on back to center. Come forward again. Go inward. More in the forward bend. Good. And then come on back up. So especially if I'm practicing and I'm nearing the end of my practice, right? I do poses not as far. I don't try to crank them. I actually try to stay as aware, right? And engaged in lesser movements, especially near the end of my practice, right? Because that's like training the awareness without the drama. All right, set up for Shavasana. So get comfortable. I'm just looking at everyone in the class because it's hard to see everybody at once. All right. So again, finding the position for you that feels more yogic, that feels more grounded. Grounding is the most important sensation here, right? So for me, if I'm sitting in a chair, I really want my arms to not be hanging and creating tension in my shoulders, right? So I've got to find a position that's as neutral as it can be, even though I'm not laying flat. So for me, getting in a neutral position and then really trying to be aware of symmetry between side to side. So that just made me want to straighten my head. Is part of how, in a sitting position, I need to practice Shavasana. Soften your jaw on the inside of your mouth. Close your eyes from top to bottom if you haven't. Start to feel where your whole body is. Because this is a balancing pose. You're trying to be as full as you start Shavasana. So the neutral, but also knowing where my feet are, my sitting bones. Soften the skin on my face or on the temples, the jaw. Ever so slightly open my chest. Soften the inside of my mouth. The base of the tongue. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Stay equal with your presence. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation. Slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes slowly and then close them. And then open them for the week. So just remember that like asana is an experience that happens. It's not a final form, right? It's a thing that you can make a yoga pose out of anything, right? If you start getting the fundamentals more connected, right? The basic happenings. Right? If you can bring your hands together, namaste. The spirit in me bows to the spirit in you. Right? Have a good week.
Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, subscribe.